Hello and welcome to another episode of First Act, the podcast where we dive into the inspirational origin stories of Australia's leading entrepreneurs, business owners and influencers. I'm one of your hosts, Sess Busby, and my fun fact for today is that I have a secret skill. I can eat fire.
Okay, Sess, look, we need to unpack that. I'm Adam Bubb, Sess's co-host for First Act, but hang on a second, Sess. You eat fire? Like, do you eat anything? Do you eat anything with the fire?
No, just the fire on a stick. That was probably a little rude.
Oh my God. Wow, I learn new things about you every day. Where did you learn how to eat fire?
I learnt many years ago in my other life as an actor. I had to do circuit skills for a role, and one of the things that I had to do in that particular role was eat fire, rub it on like bits of my body and breathe it.
I'm sure there's footage of this somewhere that we're going to have to dig up. Look, okay, so my secret skill is much less impressive. And I really was put on the spot here. I was like, what's it going to be today? I can solve cryptic crosswords. That's my secret skill. And it took me quite a few years. But I mean, I can look at an anagram or a homophone and I can just, the way that it works, I don't know, it just sort of tickles something in my brain. And I learned some things from my late father-in-law actually about how he approached them. And I've learned a lot of tricks and skills. And I even read a book about it by David Astle, who's a great crossword setter. Anyway, that's my weird skill. Not as cool as fire breathing, but let's go back to fire because our guest today, who we've been kept waiting with this conversation, is full of fire. He's got a burning passion for both business and making a difference. We're joined by Aviv Palti, CEO of wholesale consumer goods company Lifestyle Brands and founder of the Cambodia Rural Students Trust, an NGO with an incredible story. Aviv and his family visited Cambodia back in 2009, and what started as a simple family trip turned into a life-changing mission to break the poverty cycle through education. CRST is now empowering thousands of Cambodian students, all led and managed by the students themselves.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But before we dive into Aviv's journey of social impact, he's also been running a successful business for over 40 years. And so from building a homewares brand that's stocked in major stores to writing a book about creating future leaders, he's really got some great insights about entrepreneurship and leadership. So I want to welcome Aviv to First Act today. We're really excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sess. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate the opportunity. And thank you for sharing your secret skills with us. I won't even attempt to consider mine.
Oh, please.
I'm
please
sure
do.
You've got some. Go on. Tell us your secret skill.
Well, my secret skill is to live each day to the fullest. I think that's really the most important thing. I think that we're here for a purpose, and I'll make the most of what we have. So my secret skill is to do the best I can at everything and get the best outcome for everyone.
That's a great secret skill. I think there should be more people with that secret skill. I think it should be not so secret.
Maybe to spread the word.
So let's go back to the beginning for you. So you co-founded Lifestyle Brands when you were just a teenager, 19. So how did that come about? How come you decided to start a business at such a young age?
Well, it was one of those things that was not premeditated. I finished high school. I got into Melbourne Uni. I started studying town planning at the University of Melbourne, and 3 months into it, I thought, this is really boring. I didn't sign up to learn about Baroque city planning, and I said to my parents, I'm going to drop out. And my mother, who's an educator, said, you have to study something else. What will it be? And I said, sales and marketing. I think I'll study sales and marketing and I'll go into business. So I was 19 years old. I studied at Swinburne. I studied at night. I worked through the day. And my parents owned a photo shop. And I said to my parents, we should go into the wholesale business. There's a lot more opportunities in wholesale than there is in retail. And so we traveled to Taiwan. We bought about $5,000 worth of merchandise because in those days, 40 odd years ago, China didn't trade with the world as it does today. The goods were sourced from Taiwan and South Korea. Bought about $5,000 worth of merchandise, photo frames from Taiwan, kept it in the back of the store. And I was the lone salesperson. I took a pilot's case, put the samples inside, and then I went into 1 hour photo shops. In those days were the big thing, and pharmacies were stocking photo frames. And I knocked on doors. I was very green. And my opening line to these retailers who have never seen before is, I'm not sure if the previous rep called on you, but I've just taken over the territory. Of course, there was no previous rep. I'm sure they all saw through all that. And I started selling. And so I took the orders through the day. I came back to the store in the afternoon, hand wrote all the invoices because there were no computers in those days, with carbon copy paper in between the two invoice sheets, packaged all the goods in newspaper balls, delivered them the next day to the stores. At the end of the month, we hand wrote all of our statements and basically grew the business organically, one step at a time. And I look back at it, obviously, it was just a great journey,
It's funny when you mention the word Photoshop, there's a whole generation who Photoshop is only Adobe Photoshop.
Quite right.
But there's a whole generation who didn't experience that long wait for, you might wait a week for your photos to be developed, and sometimes they don't come out, and sometimes, it was an anxiety inducing time.
Absolutely right, Adam. And therein lies really the absolutely amazing transformation of having a photo-based business, which we then transposed into a homewares-based business over the period. As the photo business declined, the homewares business increased. And so we pivoted into a homewares-based business. And although today one of our major lines is still photo frames, and we've got a significant market share in photo frames in Australia, over the years we've developed relationships with retailers overseas, particularly international retailers like Walmart and Target USA, Carrefour and Auchan in Europe. We developed a number of licensed merchandise ranges, including the Disney line, which we had worldwide, and Geddes, the photographer, took photos of babies and flowers in flower pots and vases. We had worldwide relationship with Ann and Cal as well. And so we expanded the business into international sales and then started working with the local retailers to develop their ranges. And today we pretty much have a very, very solid business based in homewares, in the national retailers and some independents and international retailers as well.
Sounds like you've always kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset, but how do you think it developed over time?
I think, Sis, the development really came with more experience. And I think that one of the things I'm a big believer in is mentorships. I'd always be seeking mentors, people who could give me ideas, people who have already walked a part of the journey, and I learn from them rather than have to have my own experience. And one of them was Cal Geddes, and Geddes' husband, who was a big picture guy. He came out of television. He was a programming director of one of the television channels in Hong Kong. And Cal said to me what I said to him. He offered me a worldwide license. And I said, oh, Cal, I live in Melbourne, Australia, hardly the geographical centre of the universe for me to go and make sales around the world. And he said, don't be ridiculous, just sit on planes a bit longer. And he gave me a lot of guidance on how I can actually open doors and connect with people. And really the key, Says, to answer your question is, how do we connect with people? I learned very early that people do business with people they like. And when you learn how to network, when you learn how to make a connection with people and find the commonality, everybody looks for what's different between us, but we really have a lot of things in common. And I think that when we travel to the US and travel to Canada, South America, Europe, to connect with a lot of people, and nowadays when we connect with a lot of retailers, we really look for the commonality. What do we have in common? And we are all in business for the same purpose. And that purpose is to reach success. And everybody's got their own measurables. So the three keys that we use is find out what they want, go get it and give it to them. So we simply ask them, what would they like to achieve? And then we figure out how to give them what they require. And then we develop those relationships.
Those are some huge relationships you just mentioned, the Geddes relationship, Disney. Really, these are brands, these are images that when you just say them, like people just have immediately got their associations with these brands. What was the sort of breaking point or like a turning point for you to go from being this small Melbourne shop? How did you make those connections with these bigger people that are kind of in a much bigger sphere?
What we understood, Adam, is we really had to have something that was going to be unique, something's going to be special, and something that's going to be memorable. So from our perspective, having another range, having another product is all very nice. And the competition is always going to be on the latest item and the price that these items go for. So to be able to jump over that, to leapfrog that, it was a matter of developing products that would be different and unique and to some degree exclusive. And that's really what we were seeking. How do we differentiate ourselves from others? Which is most businesses look for that as well. And we were looking for what's the biggest thing we can get. And that's the first of our 5 steps is dream big. So the biggest thing we could think of was going for a license like Disney and knocking on Disney's doors and saying, hey, listen, we've got this opportunity of taking product and creating licensed merchandise with it. What would you like us to give you that's going to tick your box to be able to be successful? And of course, you've got to imagine people like Disney or Ann Geddes, those people are looking for what's going to strengthen their brand, uphold their values, and be able to fit into what they do and help them be more successful too. So we were looking for things that were going to be iconic and big and memorable and open doors. And that's pretty much why we went for those bigger brands and being able to not really try before you buy, but we said to both brands, give us a short period of time. In Geddes, it was 6 months. In Disney, it was 12 months. Give us a try, see what you like. And if you see what you like, then we will sign a longer term contract. And quite often in business, it's a better way to start a relationship. It reduces the risks for the other party. And you can really show what you're made of in 6 and 12 months. And they say, wow, this is really what I want. And they want more of that.
Hmm. So you talked earlier about pivoting, you talked just then about dreaming big, you talked about the value of connections. All those things kind of part of the secret sauce that has led to lifestyle brands' longevity because you're in a very competitive space.
Absolutely, sis. It's the fact that we're able to take all of these different elements and create something different and add value in every step that we do, whether it's conceiving products, figuring out what the consumer trend will be in 12 and 24 months' time. As you said, it's a competitive industry, so the key is going to figure out where will the customer be in 12 and 24 months, and what do we have to offer them that when they're ready, the product is cooked and on the shelf, and those retailers can actually maximize the sales. So there's a lot of psychology that goes into it, a lot of science that goes into it, and then ultimately the success comes of it. So we are able to definitely utilize a lot of that. The other key that we've had is the ability to develop and maintain a great team in-house. And for a company that's just over 40 years old, the average tenure of our team member is 17 years. And that's just an incredible number. People nowadays job hop quite frequently. To have a team that's 17 years on average, you can imagine there's obviously ones in their 20s and ones in their teens, but we really have a very, very stable team and we grow together. So for us, it's just as important to treat our team members as they are our partners, because everybody has a choice. They don't need to work with us. They can work anywhere else. What do we need to do to add value to them, to their families, to their lives, to make sure they remain engaged with what we do? And also continue that cycle of contribution. How do we do things better? You know, in 2024, we don't do business the same way as in 1983. So business has changed so much. We need to make sure they can adapt at the rate that we adapt and have a growth mindset.
Do you think being a family-run business sort of set that groundwork for you to approach things, you know, like you are building a family, but also when you, in terms of those interpersonal connections with brands that are, you know, kind of really well-known brands, that they sort of recognize and go, you know what, you started small, you started from your family, so we believe in you because we know that you're close knit?
It's a really good question, Adam, because these big brands are looking for reliability, and they're looking for companies that actually have a soul, have a spirit, and they're not just about the profit. And so when we started dealing with these larger brands, from our point of view, it was really important to show them that we had the family values, but we also had commercial efficacy. So we're going to be very effective when it comes to being a business, giving you the reports you need, accountability that you need, transparency that you need. So using those family values and adding the corporate requirements really is what's been a part of the secret sauce, that we've actually been able to combine the two things and give them that human face, but also that corporate structure that's required for accountability.
Let's kind of pivot a bit while we're talking about family to, I mean, your first act is, it's a continuing act. You've actually got a number of first acts within it. You go on a family trip and you go to Cambodia, and this is sort of the beginning of your journey with the Cambodia Rural Students Trust, CRST. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It all came about by accident, as I say to people, that the universe put Cambodia in our path. We didn't go seek Cambodia. Our younger daughter, Steph, was 14. She was in high school. She put in for a school trip to go to Cambodia. She missed out on that school trip for various reasons. And so we were having this big family discussion about what the lessons are from this and what can we do. And for us, the lesson was not just missing out, but how do we actually have a 14-year-old who wants to contribute to developing countries' ability to improve their citizens' lives? How do we make that a family experience, that she can get that experience herself? And so I offered Steph that I'll go with her to Cambodia, and she was going to build houses with the schools. And I said, we'll build houses together. And she, as a 14-year-old, said to me, as any 14-year-old can say, Dad, what do you know about building houses? You can't even put together IKEA furniture. And she's absolutely right. I can't put together IKEA furniture without supervision because I just take some shortcuts. So I said, you know what, let's not build houses. Let's look for something else. And we sat in front of Google, found out that there are numerous volunteer opportunities in developing countries like Cambodia. And Steph said, I like this one over here. It's a school. We can teach English at a school and we'll have fun with the students over there. So we wrote to these number of sites. This particular school came back. 2 months later, we're in Cambodia teaching English at a free English school in the countryside. In that ensuing 2 months, we were discussing with wider families that Steph and I were going to go to Cambodia. We're going to be volunteering to teach English. And my mother is an educator. I said, would you mind if I come? I said, it's nothing to do with me. This is Steph's trip. So it's all to do with Steph, what she would like and who she would like to join. And Steph said, look, if other people want to join, it's got to be by my rules. Steph's got a very definitive personality. And her rules were basically that this was her trip and other people can come along and they can contribute, but she'll ultimately say, this is what we'll do and this is what you won't do. She didn't want somebody else taking over what was really her volunteer trip in Cambodia. So it ended up that 6 of us travelled to Cambodia. My wife, Michelle, joined us as well. Jess, our older daughter, couldn't join. She was doing the last year of high school. But 6 of us turned up in Cambodia. We taught English at this free English school for 2 weeks. And that's how we ended up in Cambodia, a country that we really have perceivably nothing in common with. We don't have a common language, common nationality, common beliefs, common foods. And all of a sudden we turn up in this foreign space and we're being welcomed as family with wide smiles, no judgment, and just love having us there to support them and do what we do. And really no ask for anything back in return. It's like so grateful that we are there just to help them, just to spend 2 weeks with them and teach them English. And it has significant impact on us. As I write in the book and as I tell people, we went to Cambodia simply to share our lives. It's not like going to Bali where you come back with a suntan. We came back from Cambodia and Cambodia was under our skin. It's forever a part of what we do. And Cambodia's had that impact. A lot of people I speak to who volunteer there, it's the people in Cambodia that are totally extraordinary. And you come back with Cambodia as a part of your life experience, not just a holiday.
So then when did the idea come about to start a CRST? And also it's very unique, there's a lot of NGOs out there, but your model is very unique, having the charity run by the students and having the students come up with ideas. And yeah, firstly, how did it come about? Why did you suddenly come back from Cambodia and go, yep, I'm gonna start this NGO? And then what kind of challenges did you face along the way and why that model?
Excellent question. So let me say that we went to this first trip, we came back to Australia and we were like carrying Cambodia for 2 weeks. When we came back, we went out for dinner with the family and Steph was sitting there. I'm not ordering anything. I said, well, why not? You must be hungry. She said, there's just no way I'm going to be paying $5 for a bowl of rice. I know what $5 can do in Cambodia. And so we really had to bridge that gap between a developing country and our country. It's like we're living in 2 separate universes. Over there, $50 will feed a family for a month. $50 wouldn't pay for a family dinner. And it was just, reconciling was massive. We returned back to Cambodia a number more times over the next 2 years, and we taught again at the same school, and there were the same students. And we need to understand that in Cambodia, education is an absolute game changer. The students who are teaching are the sons and daughters of the survivors of the Khmer Rouge and the ensuing civil war. So they never got a chance to be educated. All of our students' parents are illiterate. And they still understood the value of education because they understood that without education, the only way you could earn a living, the only way you could sustain yourself is by using your body, because you can't use your head because you haven't been educated. So therefore, they'd be working in the fields, working on construction sites, working in the searing sun, the pouring rain. And that was the only way that they could actually make ends meet. And they were earning very little money. The average salary in Cambodia those days, or earnings in those days in the countryside, was $100 a month. Nowadays, it's $200 a month. And the reality is that that's the only way that you can earn money in Cambodia without an education. And there are so many people who are uneducated. The competition's great and the salaries or the values are low in terms of what you get in remuneration. These students went to government schools in the mornings or the afternoons, came to our free English school in the reverse, the afternoons and the mornings. And in between, they helped mum and dad on the farm or helped them doing other things. When I say farm, a plot of land, they'd be looking after the buffalo or looking after the rice fields. So they understood the value of education. And so they turned up at 7:30 in the morning to greet us in school. And they were in school before we arrived. And they were there until 7:30 at night when we taught the second class. And it was really impacted on us, the fact that we could make a real sustainable difference in education. So after traveling back and forth a number of times for 2 years, we came to the conclusion that the best way to create this sustainable change is to found our own NGO. So we founded the Cambodia Rural Student Trust. I know nothing about NGOs, and so that was a massive learning curve for us about what an NGO is and how you set one up and how do you make it transparent, accountable, and all the registrations. And I understood from my business experience we needed to engage locals to give us a hand. And so I contacted a friend of mine who was the registrar at the university, a young guy called Lini Yun. And he studied at Macquarie University in Sydney for 6 months while he was doing his degree. So we had a bit of that connection I was talking about earlier, something that's in common between us. And we became friends. And I said to Lenny, we want to set up an NGO in Cambodia. And he said, well, there are so many NGOs here. There are thousands already. Why do you want to set up another NGO? And I said, no, we've got the vision of breaking the poverty cycle through education. By sponsoring these rural youths to come from the countryside to Siem Reap, we'll sponsor them at a private high school, a private university, and allow them to lead and manage the NGO so they can gain practical life, business, and management leadership skills to empower them for the rest of their lives. They'll learn these skills and take them on and be able to utilize them and not just break their own poverty cycles in their families, but inspire others to see this is what's possible. When you get these skills, you can help other people. Lenny was very touched by that, and he took me to meet the local member of parliament. I explained to him that we won't pay any bribes, and he said to me, that's a good idea because when you start, you never end. And 30 days later, we had a registered NGO in Cambodia and went back to the school and with a permission from the director said, we've set up an NGO. The NGO is called the Cambodia Rural Student Trust. The vision is to educate future leaders, and our mission will be done by breaking the poverty cycle through education. 22 students went home, got permission from their family, came back to school later that week and said to us, we're happy to join the NGO, and they moved from Bakong village and those areas into Siem Reap to live in town. And then what we call Generation 1 students in CRST. So that was pretty much what it was. It was just grassroots saying, we can make a difference. It's relatively easy for us to make a difference. And we were never intending to move to Cambodia and live there. Really, our intention was always to skill up. Sustainable development is a term everybody uses nowadays, but really that's what that means. You just spend your time mentoring and skilling up the local people, and we don't need to keep going back because they do it all through the mentorship.
Can you share a specific story of a student who has gone from rural poverty to achieving something amazing through CRST?
Oh, Adam, where do I start? I have to say to you, Jess and I were in Cambodia just last month, and we attended the graduation of university for 21 of our students. It was an amazing, amazing experience. And the week prior to that, we were in Phnom Penh meeting with our alumni. So we've got over 40 alumni now who are living in Phnom Penh. More than half have completed or are completing their master's degrees in Phnom Penh.
Wow,
and
my goodness.
their lives just completely transformed.
Yeah.
I made a presentation of this last week, and Jess, who's a visual person, created these slides for me. And you see these rural youths, I call them kids, but the rural youths who joined us as late teens into the NGO, and they're wearing their rural clothes in front of their homes just in 2011, 2012, 2013. These days, they've finished high school with us. They went to the high school. They had leadership and management roles in the NGO. They finished their bachelor degree. They relocated to Phnom Penh to get jobs, finished their master degrees. Knack, who was our first NGO manager, he joined us in grade 12. Imagine somebody coming up to you as a grade 12 student saying, would you like to be the NGO manager? I'll teach you what to do. Like, completely overwhelming. And he said, I don't know how to run an NGO. And I said, it's very easy. It's just like running a business. I don't know how to run a business either. I said, you know what? It's just like running a government, because everybody in Cambodia understands the government. I said, so you'll be the prime minister, but we will call you the NGO manager. And I turned to the next person. I said, Deb, you can be the deputy manager, like the deputy prime minister. You'll be the deputy NGO manager. And the next person was going to be the education manager. I said, you're just like the education minister. And we're going to give you what the task you need to do. And we call those a job description. And we basically build it up one step at a time. That generation helped us lead the next generation, mentor them. Knack right now is graduated with a master's degree in marketing. He runs a real estate business in Phnom Penh. He employs over 20 team members, and he's very, very successful, married, one child, and absolutely goes back and pays it forward. He's one of the mentors in the NGO. He's set up his sister and brother-in-law into a small business. They've bought a small Passat tuk-tuk for his father to earn a better living, and he's supporting his wider family as well. But most importantly, he's generating more productivity for Cambodia. You can imagine employing 20 people as team members in a real estate business. So he's one example. I can speak of Siniang, who's now studying her master degree. She joined us in high school as well. She led a number of different projects in the NGO. She's now working as a project manager for a French international NGO in Phnom Penh. We've got Sreng, who joined us just out of high school. He became a manager in the NGO in a couple of our enterprises, because we have got 6 social enterprises to teach those young adults on how to lead and manage an enterprise or a business. He led a number of those. He fortunately got a scholarship to study management information systems at Temple University in the US through one of our contacts. He studied there. He returned to Cambodia. We connected him with KPMG. He worked there for a couple of years, ended up being an IT auditor. And we supported him to study his MBA at the American University of Phnom Penh. He was then poached by the Ministry of Finance and Economy and Finance, and he's now working for the ministry, meeting with the World Bank, meeting with
amazing,
incredible International Monetary Fund, amazing journeys.
Yeah.
10 or 13 years ago, these kids were just in the countryside. I cannot stress that enough. They were just rural youths looking after buffaloes.
Yeah, incredible. It's just amazing what can happen when people are given access to education.
Absolutely. Education. One thing, Cess, that we learned very early in Cambodia is that being poor does not mean being dumb. Being poor simply means being locked out of more opportunities. And education opens up those opportunities. That's what makes the big difference. And the fact that those students and their parents decided that, yes, they will buy that dream, that education will change your life, was incredible. And we are forever grateful to those first 2 or 3 generations, because they had to trust us. They had no role models. They couldn't look at somebody else and say, look, this is where I'll end up. If I stay at school, go to university, take on these roles in the NGO that will develop me, this is what I will be like. They had none of those. There were no poster children. Nowadays, the generation 13 that's about to join us in a couple of months, they already understand that this is what the end product looks like. If I follow this process, I could be like my brothers and sisters. But these early generations, they just had to trust us that education will change their life.
We'll be back with Aviv Palti, where we'll hear about his new book, Empowered, A New Generation of Leaders, and a lot more after this short commercial break. We're back with Aviv Palti. Now, Aviv, tell us, running a business and an NGO are very different. What are the key leadership lessons that you've taken from each? Or are there common threads between them that you've sort of alluded to them a little bit, haven't you?
Right, Adam. I think that there are a lot of commonalities. The most important thing is that the system that we put in place, which is what we do at work and what we do in the NGO, is very, very similar. And there are 5 steps which we teach all of our team members. And that's dream big, plan, act, correct, continue. So dreaming big is, what's the biggest thing we can do? Whether it's work or the NGO, what's the biggest thing we can do? And then we make a plan. How do we actually get there? And when we figure out where we want to be, begin with the end in mind. I'd like to end up there. We work it back to say, how do we get there? Here are the milestones along the way. And once we've done that, we simply have to take the actions to make it happen. And then we correct and continue. So we evaluate what we've done and say, how do we make this better? What have we done well? What can we do better next time? And continue, keep going. Just say, I'm going to give up on this. And that correct and continue is just perpetual. It doesn't stop at any time. Every activity we do, we stop and say, what do we do well? What can we do better? Every meeting we have at work, we do the same way. What do we do well? What can we do better next time? And that's the idea of just continuous improvement. So that's the similarities. The second thing that we've learned and what we've applied is that working in teams get us there a lot quicker than doing things on our own. And I say we a lot because I don't do anything on my own. Everything is a we, whether it's work or whether it's in Cambodia. There's always a team working on different things. Every team member has got different strengths. Everybody will contribute their strengths and be able to enhance the team's output by being able to say, this is what this person's good at, and let them have that opportunity of flying on their own without having to do something with them. And mentorship is important by saying to someone, if you need a hand, let me know, I'm here. And from my past experience, you may want to try this and this and this. There's a lot of suggestions, there's a lot of perhaps, there's a lot of maybes. There's not a lot of directions. Please do this, you can do that. There's very little of that going on. So it's really about building up individuals, again, whether it's work or whether it's in Cambodia. And then the final thing, the final thing that we've got in common is the fact that we're all working for humanity. Everybody who we work with in our sphere, whether it's work or whether it's Cambodia, understands that it's not about me, it's about we. It's about what am I doing to contribute to someone else. So when we look at product at work, what's our ultimate consumer going to feel when they take that product home? Is this going to enhance their life? How do we delight them? And that's pretty much a commonality.
Hmm. I love that it's not about me, it's about we. So, how do you think founding CRST changed you both personally and as a business leader?
Wow, that's a deep question. I think that the reality is that I've not met any person so far who has not been looking for a purpose for life. I think we all have evolved sufficiently to say, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And it's not just to get up in the morning and go to work. It's like, what is my deep, meaningful purpose that I could say at the end of my life, wow, I've done all this, I've achieved all that, I'm leaving this behind. What's my legacy? And I think that when I look at what we've achieved, whether it's at work or whether it's in Cambodia, is the fact that we've got this amazing purpose that's changed me as a person. As a person going to work, there was always, everybody I know that's got a family says, well, their purpose is their family. It's their kids. Well, their purpose is to add value to their kids. We're able to take that and, to me, add value to a lot of kids. And I say a lot because it's not just the students of the CRST NGO who we add value to and their families. When I mentioned that we were in Cambodia a couple of weeks ago for the graduation ceremony, that was the first time that Jess and I met many of the students' families. Our vision carry out our vision, not to be the heroes of the story, but to let our students be the heroes. So we don't go meet their families. We don't want to receive gratitude from them because their students, their kids should receive the gratitude, say, your passion about education is what you've achieved. Yet we met those families. And they, of course, we know we've changed their lives. We can see that and you can imagine the emotion of it. But I think that it's changed me because it allows me to really practice what I've always believed and lived in, which is just to have an open heart and embrace as many people as I can. And it's not just our own students. Our students do a lot of community service activities. Just on the weekend, they traveled to Pravia, which is a further province from Siem Reap. They educated over 2,000 rural students with the basic education to have about health, hygiene, nutrition, the environment, and distributed study supply to these remote students, distributed solar buddy study lights to those students who live in energy poverty, over 2,000. Educated girls, distributed over 1,000 feminine hygiene kit, menstruation kits to girls who go to school and have no way of dealing with their period. The idea is that we're using this nucleus to spread humanity, and that's what's changed me the most. The fact that I understand now that by taking one small step and saying, let's step outside of our comfort zone and be able to set up an NGO, we're actually able to spread the word of humanity and everybody can help everybody else. And we're completely non-aligned. We're just doing this for humanity's benefit.
And it goes back to need, doesn't it? When you were talking about, to bring this back to your product background, you go where the need is. You go and put need first. And clearly there's a huge need in Cambodia. In your book, Empowered, a New Generation of Leaders, this is very much the kind of thing you're talking about leadership and how do you empower those different leaders. What do you think defines a great leader, and how can anyone, having worked with so many, how can anyone learn to lead? Even people who wouldn't even think that they could lead.
Full of very good questions today. That's excellent.
Adam, I like a double or triple pronged question, but
that's right.
Take it as one. How can anyone lead?
No, it's really, really good. The leadership is like education. It's a process. It's not like, you read a leadership book, now you're a leader. And I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of people and get trained on leadership. And that's what makes me understand that leadership is not one level. So really the ability to be able to take that leadership and teach people that leadership is a learnable skill. It's a skill anybody can learn. And this is how you start. You basically start out by figuring out what's required and how do you lead yourself. So leading yourself means, what do you do to be the best version of you can be? And once you figure that out, how do you utilize your time the best way you can? How you measure what your output is and are you getting a return on your investment, or should you be doing things that are different? What else do you need to learn that you don't know? Because if you don't know, then you'll never be able to create the impact. So figure out what it is. Managing your time is probably the most important thing. And then effective communication is the next. How do you create those relationships? When you learn those skills, then you're able to practice them. And when you practice them, they become your normal. Now that's your comfort zone. You start learning on the next skill. So leadership really is a very, very learnable skill. Unfortunately, in our society, we just don't teach enough of that to the next generation, which is quite shameful because the next generation will become the leaders. That's just evolution. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's really our role to equip them with that knowledge, to give them that skill set to say, this is how you learn to become a great leader, how you become to engage with other people, find out what it is they need, figure out how you're going to work with them to get it, and then together achieve the results. So we do that through our mentorship. We have a program in Cambodia, which is called a business school program. We're visiting international professionals who come to Cambodia on their own account, spend a week with us teaching their skill set, whether it's business planning, whether it's networking, whatever that particular professional is. So they get to learn from a lot of international people. And we have another program, which is called the Ambassador Program. And we have students who travel with Jess and I overseas to Australia, New Zealand, the US, and they meet with a lot of business people and they see a lot of the world they've never seen before. And it's a great learning experience, but it's a great leadership experience because it takes them completely out of their comfort zone. They've been thoroughly trained and now they've got to figure out what this is. And then they learn those skills of leadership because we go to universities, we go to schools, business meetings, and they bring that back to Cambodia to share it. So we have a number of different facets on how we create this leadership culture, what we call a leadership factory at CRST.
So when you were writing Empowered, it must have obviously given you a lot of time to reflect back on your personal journey. But in essence, the book is really not so much about you, but it's about capturing the essence of all those students that have come through CRST and where they've gone and what their journey is and how they've been led from one place of poverty to this other absolutely aspirational place. So what was the hardest part for you when you were trying to put the book together?
The hardest part for me, Sis, was the fact that there are just so many stories that have evolved over the time to make the book really meaningful for the reader. I really wrote this book in a very visual, engaging sense, and I wanted to take the reader on a journey. It wasn't really about me, as you said quite rightly. In fact, I wasn't even going to have my name on the cover, and Jess said to me, "Don't be ridiculous, Dad. You're the author. You got to have your name on the cover." So, then I won't have my photo on the back of the book, and I don't. But I agreed to have it in black and white inside the back of the book rather than the back cover because it really isn't. It's not about me. I really, really want to stress I'm being the narrator. I'm the voice for these incredible youths in Cambodia who've transformed their lives. And we're now having the book translated into Khmer as well. So we'll actually be distributed in Cambodia to encourage and inspire other Cambodian youths to see our brothers and sisters have done this. This can be done. This education thing really works. So really, for me to write the book, the biggest thing was how do I bring the reader on a visual sense? How do I make the reader feel? I would describe going down to Pub Street, which is the centre of going out for dinners or having things to do at night in Siem Reap. The sounds, the smells, the really the visual of what it's all about. And for me, that was the biggest thing. And everything I rewrote was all about, is the reader really going to get this? Are they going to feel the connection, the emotion, and really understand that this is really, we're talking about our fellow human beings, and this is their incredible journey. And there are people in life that aren't always going to be working with you. They're not always on your team, not always on your side. And these are not bad people. That just have a different journey. And how do I say that without being disparaging? Still give the facts, but still give them the respect that they are still human beings and still are living on their own journey. So I really wanted to bring all that across to people and ultimately have the distilled conclusions at every chapter, bring it back to leadership. So, here's the story. Here's what we've shared. Here are the students telling you their voices and their presentations. But at the end of the chapter, this is really the leadership essence you need to take away. So you've got the story, but this is really what you need to take away with you.
So it sounds like any of our listeners who there's a lot for entrepreneurs, but there's a lot for people in other kinds of leadership roles. And I think even thinking about people I know who are teachers, you might want your kids in your classes to read this sort of thing and go, you know what, you can take these sort of leadership lessons and take them into anything that you do in life. Yeah, and that's obviously anybody in any kind of company too. Like if you want to try and change things where you're at, there are lessons to take from that too. Are there any other key lessons that any of our listeners should know about before obviously going out and buying your book.
I think that the book is really written as a light read. It's not like an intensive leadership book, and I've read intensive leadership books, and there's the sort of books you sit there and you make lots of notes in the margin because you can actually take stuff away from them. This book is designed for you to enjoy the read and really get the lessons out of it. And then at the end of it, at the end of every chapter, there is a distilled bits that you can actually take away and implement and remember, because that's really what it's all about. So the book is wide open for teenagers through to, as you said, young adults, and then to business professionals. And it's got something for everyone in it because it really tells a story of humanity and the connectedness of it all. And I think a lot of people who will read the book will say, yeah, I've had a similar situation, or I've heard about this for somebody else that I know. So there's a lot of commonality that goes through it. Really, the spine of everything we do is education. But within that, it's all about humanity. It's how we're all the same, not how we're all different. And how collaboration gets us to where we need to get to a lot faster and with a much, much greater impact. And it is about how do we share this with as many people as possible. I'll share with you that right now, as we speak, the Minister for Education, Youth and Sport in Cambodia is visiting our campus. And that's just totally extraordinary. To get a minister to come to your campus is almost impossible. Just yesterday, we got a phone call to say he's going to be there tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning. I said, okay, well, we'll be ready because we're always ready. And the reality is that he obviously has heard about the book in Cambodia, and he's saying, I need to see more about this. And I think that nothing is going to be more impactful than taking this book, whether it's in Australia or other countries, Cambodia included, and saying to young adults, this is your story, this is your voice, these are experiences that you've had, whether it's in Cambodia or here, of somebody trying to tell you what to do or take advantage of you or build you up or give you opportunities. This is the commonality of what we do. And be able to take that away and do something with it in life. But similarly, if you are doing a case study, if you're working at work and you've got difficult people you're working with, or if you want to know where to start, what's the process to follow, the book contains a lot of that in a very distilled, learnable way.
We spent a lot of time listening and digging deep into your various journeys, both with lifestyle brands earlier and CRST, I might say. Is there anything that you haven't achieved with them yet that you're still looking to, or any particular projects or goals that you're excited about for both your wholesale business and also for the NGO?
Well, we never reach an end point. It's one of those things that it's as soon as you think you get there, there's something else after it. I think on a work front, we're always looking for the categories, the products, the relationships, and what's next, and how do we make the next season bigger than the last one. And for us, it's really, really important to continue walking that treadmill so we don't fall off the back. So it's perpetual. We always continue to look for what's the next thing in terms of categories, products, and relationships. In Cambodia, it's very, very similar. We retire projects, what we call our educational social enterprises, each focus on a social need, as you said earlier, Adam. And so we basically go out and find out what do we need to do to help society. And that's how these projects come about. Project G, Empowering Girls. We looked at a lot of girls in Cambodia not being encouraged to go to school, especially in the countryside. Just stay home. We don't need to educate you. The boy's going to get to work. You don't. You'll just look after the kids and the family. And encouraging girls to go to school is critical to get the equitable society that we want to live in. And so we figured out what do we need to do to support them. And so we developed Project G, Empowering Girls, which teaches about the reproductive system and distributes these menstrual kits to the girls to allow them to go to school. These kits last 3 to 5 years. And we teach the boys about exactly the same thing as we teach the girls in separate classes and tell them you've got a role to support girls to become empowered because that's what's going to drive society forward. And it really engages the whole of the school. Project R, Refuse, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle. Massive problem in Cambodia and the countryside with single-use plastic. And so the students have developed a business plan and then educated over 37,000 rural students so far about the harmful impact of single-use plastic and provided solutions for collecting the plastics, distributing single-wall aluminium bottles instead of using plastic bottles and organic cotton bags. So we give solutions and education. And every project we've done follows the same way. As a project gets to a retirement, we've achieved our goal, we assess it, we say, right, we can retire this project. What's the next one? So the last one we onboarded is Project T, Trees for Life. By the end of this year, we'll have planted over 5,000 trees in Cambodia, both in the countryside and in town. And that project will continue because obviously it's got massive impact. We're now looking at a project which is about financial literacy. Imagine going to a high school and teaching high school students about financial literacy. This is how you budget. This is how you manage your wants and your needs, and you save money for the future, but still while living today. And all that in a level that the students already understand. So we're looking for what's needed and we develop those projects and we bring them out when we have the capacity within our team to be able to learn the skill sets. They start with a project plan, a project budget, learn the skills they require, and then the process comes in and they go and educate those students in the countryside. And that's how every year our students reach over 20,000 rural students every year in teaching them the different skills between the different projects that we have.
Aviv, you're so inspiring. I feel like I need to go out and start something. What advice would you give to anyone who might be listening that's feeling the same? They want to go out and make a difference.
It's just awesome to be able to make a difference, because as one of the final sentences in the book, when we're done, we're never done, because even in the end, our legacy continues. And I think that everybody needs to go out there and say, what can I do that's going to make a big difference to other people? And just start with what speaks to you. Start with something that you're passionate about, and then find someone who's doing it and say, what can I do to collaborate with you to get started? And when you get started, you'll find your own path. But I spend a lot of time with people who say, I want to get started, what do I do? And it's always about what are you passionate about? If you're passionate about cooking, well, maybe you can go and work with organizations that provide food for different parts of our community. If you're passionate about the environment, find the organizations do that. Work with them, develop a network, find your people. And once you start with that, if you decide to stay with them, that's great. Otherwise, you can always start things on your own once you've got a bit more experience out of doing it. But get into the ecosystem and find your people and work with them and really get the joy. It'll give you a lot of purpose in life, a lot of purpose. And you'll say, I should have done it earlier.
Well, Cess, I think, between your fire-breathing talents and my cryptic crossword talents, we've got to have an NGO in us somewhere. Is there a need? Let's think about it.
I'm sure that you could bring your talent to people and bring a lot of joy to them. So I think you've got to figure out how you apply that.
Thank you.
And you're both very welcome to join us in Cambodia. If at any time you go to Cambodia or even Southeast Asia, it's only an hour away from Thailand, a couple of hours from Singapore, feel free to drop into the Cambodia Rural Students Trust in Siem Reap. We have a project called Project V, the volunteer experience. That team is completely trained up on how to host guests. And we have hundreds of guests who visit us every year. And we start with exactly the same way, asking the guests, what would you like to do when you're here? We give them a menu and they say, we'd love to distribute bicycles at schools, or help build a home for a rural family, or distribute food supplies to one of the families we support in the countryside. Whatever it is that's going to enrich you. And of course, the magnificent Angkor Wat temples, which are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and spend some time in an authentic country that is really going to welcome you and make you feel welcome. So if you are looking for a place to start, you're going to be in Southeast Asia, certainly heartily invite you to visit us in Siem Reap.
Thank you so much, Aviv. It's just been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today, but I think that's probably all we've got time for. I can't believe it. Thank you so much. If you want to find out more about the Cambodian Rural Students Trust, then head to cambodianruralstudentstrust.org. And to find out more about lifestyle brands, visit lifestyleb.com. And thank you. Thank you again, Aviv.
Thank you so much.
Aviv, it's been an absolute pleasure. And as I said before, really inspiring hearing from you. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to read this book. Thank you, of course, to our First Act listeners. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with another episode in a couple of weeks where we'll chat with another fantastic, fascinating entrepreneur. See you next time.